Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news coming out of Russia, Ukraine, and North Korea. But by far our biggest piece of news of the day is coming out of Russia, as we have gotten word from Vladimir Putin directly that Russia is now officially announcing a brand new military operation to establish a security buffer zone along the Russia-Ukraine border, which is a very big announcement but very vague and we don't have many details. And also we did learn that Ukraine launched its largest drone attack of the war overnight since the very start of the Ukraine war, causing very significant damage to several Russian cities, and as a result of that, Moscow is now officially on lockdown as Putin rolls out air defenses and military checkpoints across the city due to these mass drone attacks. And also, we have gotten satellite imagery showing North Korea's sunken naval destroyer being spotted from satellite, and the prognosis for that ship is not good, and once again, Kim Jong-un is beyond livid right now. He is livid, he is irate, and he is taking it out on the people. So we have a lot of news, so let's jump into our first post of the day, which goes to Live Ukraine Map. And this is one of our biggest stories of the day. Right now, we're getting a direct announcement from Vladimir Putin that a decision has been made to create a security buffer zone along the border between Russia and Ukraine, and the armed forces are currently solving this problem right now, according to Vladimir Putin. So this is a very, very vague announcement. It's not really clear what he means by this, but based on what I can interpret from it, it sounds like Russia is launching a full-scale operation along the entire border of Russia and Ukraine to try to create a buffer zone, as he calls it, to create some space between those two countries. But once again, there is a problem with that because right now Ukraine's already attacking in Kursk and Belgrade, and they're in the Russian territory. So to create a buffer zone, that is something that Russia has really failed to do up to this point, but it seems to be that some type of major military action is effectively underway as of today to try to get this changing very quickly. So we're not told what that is, but we do have a quick snippet of video here of Putin speaking. It's not translated, but notice his facial expressions. He seems to be very angry and very uncouth right now. So let's take a look. So here is Putin talking right here about the new operation. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and mute this, by the way. Putin's facial expressions appear to be showing quite a bit of anger and frustration. I'm not sure if that's theatrics that he's putting on for this video, but it does appear that he is agitated. Maybe he's very frustrated with the lack of military options he has, or maybe the progress that the military is making, but he appears to be very upset as of today, and in announcing this operation, he is making that known here in the video that he is angry. So whatever the case is, he seems agitated, and the video appears to show that. So that is our one clip. We have Putin speaking about it, but no other details as of right now, and we're waiting for more confirmation of exactly what this means. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to Visegrad 24. We've also gotten more big news on a different front. We've also heard as well that in addition to this new military operation being deployed by Russia, that Ukraine launched its largest drone attack against Russia yet of the entire war last night and into the morning hours of today, and the airports in Moscow have suspended operations and oil refineries in Ryazan are officially hit. So we have gotten some confirmed hits as of today, and this is a map showing you the direction of the attacks from these Ukrainian drones. As you can see, they appear to be going into the Bryansk Oblast and also toward Lipetsk and Voronezh, and a lot of them are actually heading straight for Moscow, which is obviously the capital of Russia. So that is why today we are seeing a lockdown inside of Moscow, is because of this very, very large drone attack. And also you do see a couple of arrows heading toward Ryazan. There was an oil refinery hit there, which we do have some video evidence of later in the video, but a very large drone attack, and once again, many different paths of attack coming from this area. It really overwhelmed Russia, and they were not able to shoot everything down. So jumping into our next post here, this one is going to go to Osint Intuit. And I think this post right here might shed some light as to why Putin is so angry as of this morning in announcing this new military operation. Moscow has been under UAV attack for over 24 hours, with explosions recently being reported just a couple hours ago. So this is a very lengthy drone attack that's actually being conducted on the capital, which is Moscow, and Ukrainian UAV manufacturing will continue to increase over time, and they cost a lot less than the Shaheeds that Russia uses, especially when you account for over 50% corruption markup on anything built in Russia. So once again, some details there about the drone manufacturing, but the big deal is Moscow is under a massive UAV attack still to this moment. So that's why they're on lockdown, and that's why we're about to get to that in just a moment. But let's take a look at our footage and see some of the drones coming in. So right here you can see this is a Russian filming from his house around the Moscow region, and there are some drones coming in, which we'll see in just a moment. You'll actually be able to see them fly right above the tree line right here, but he's looking out. He's clearly hearing the drones, and there goes one of them actually above the treetops. You can see it right there. It is flying in. There it is on camera. That appears to be maybe a Bayraktar-style drone of Ukraine's, and we do see that flying in. And of course, there was a ton of them coming in, and the air defense is clearly not taking them out, and they're flying right in, really spooking the Moscow residents quite badly. directly, and also spooking Vladimir Putin himself. So this video right here shows some more evidence of the scale of the drone attack and just how low they're flying to the ground actually that we saw just right there. So massive to see. But jumping into our next post here, this one goes to War Translated. And speaking of Moscow, Moscow right now is the subject of a total lockdown in the city, and right now we are hearing in this post that in Moscow, temporary checkpoints with armored vehicles and electronic warfare systems have been deployed due to an attack by unidentified drones, and they've since been identified as Ukrainian. I can confirm that. And also, meanwhile, the Russians go on assaults riding donkeys and old Zhelugi cars that are seen right here in the city. So they have a full mobilization here in Moscow of security forces to protect the city. So, you know, once again, usually when drones attack, usually they simply deploy their air defense, which is already in place inside of the capital of Moscow, because once again, there's no city in Russia which is as important as Moscow because all the elites live there, so naturally Putin's going to protect that. So we did see this time, though, they've deployed ground forces inside of Moscow, which is interesting because usually we don't see that during a drone attack. So we do have a video here, so let's take a look and see the extent of the deployment of the Russian forces inside of the capital of Moscow. And right here, this is a live look at Moscow. You can see right there is clearly the Russian security forces. They are on the ground with their armored vehicles. Also, you can see there are some police cars as well, and they are armed to the teeth. And they're out here right in the middle of the streets of Moscow. And also, there is electronic warfare systems here on the roof that we could see right there. So there's a lot of defenses being rolled out, and it appears to be that Putin is getting really frustrated with these massive attacks on the capital because that is disrupting the elites of Russia, which might start causing a problem if this keeps going on for quite a while. Also, another thing to note, notice right there, they hate the West so much in Russia that they're driving a nice German car. That appears to be a Mercedes S-Class right there, one of the top spec models that Mercedes makes, even though the Russians just hate the West and they think the West is trying to destroy Russia. They love our vehicles and they love our cars. Very interesting to see. But away from that side note, we're now going to move on to our next post here, and this one is going to go to War Translated yet again. And just to give you an idea of just how large this attack was by the Ukrainian drone forces, we saw that Moscow and other regions of Russia did not sleep last night due to a visit from the quote-unquote friendly drones of Ukraine, and it was loud in the Oryol, Bryansk, Kursk, Moscow, Vladimir, Ryazan, Belgorod, also Tula, Kaluga, and Lipetsk regions, literally tons of regions, one of the largest attacks we've ever seen, like I said, and at Moscow's airports, the Domodedovo, the Sheremetyevo, also the Venuko, and the Sukovsky had to implement the carpet plan, the emergency plan to protect from drones, because of this massive attack, and meanwhile, the Russians claim they shot down 105 UAVs, but I can assure you there were way more than that were fired at Russia, and I really doubt that number of 105 being accurate that they actually shot down. So we do have another video showing the extent of the drone strike, so let's take a look at this one too. Oh wow, big booms across Russia, as we can see right here on the camera, and this appears to be maybe a high-rise in one of, maybe Moscow even, it looks like perhaps, but we can see there was another hit right there. You can see it right out of this high-rise window, and it is, and appears to be maybe the morning hours, right in the morning hours before it turns light, and you see here's another Russian panicking and being a terrible cameraman, pointing us at a speaker grill or something, but you could hear he just yelled, oh, there's a drone coming, so he could definitely hear that drone off camera, but as you can see, massive attacks once again, and more proof that the attack was wide-reaching across multiple different areas of Russia that we did see right there. But jumping into our next post, this one also goes to Osin Intuit. And you might recall that I also mentioned that Ryazan was attacked last night as well, because Ryazan was actually attacked twice in the last 24 hours or so. There was a UAV strike on the Ryazan oil refinery yesterday, and also just about 2 hours ago before I made this video, there was another strike on that same facility, and both NASA firms and NOAA-20 thermal imagery showed 2 fires on the location of the plant, which was detected yesterday and this morning as well. So let's take a look right here. As you can see, there are clearly big blotches of red, which indicates fires on the NASA firm's map, and this is right here at the oil refinery that is the Ryazan plant. So a very crucial and large plant that is crucial to the Russian oil industry, and that's already suffering financially very, very badly. And also, you can see right here that there is a location on the fire right there on one of the main refinery points here of equipment right there in the middle of the plant. So it is quite severe, and Ryazan has been having a bad stroke of luck over the last 24 hours. So we did see that. But jumping into our next post, this one goes to Max24. And moving on to a different piece of news right here, we're also getting word from Finland that Finland is now preparing for the worst case scenario as Russia expands its military presence near their shared border. And once again, Finland right now is a bit of a hotspot when it comes to the Russia-Finland border, because Russia is amassing a ton of troops there. They've been doing that for months, and even though the US says they're they're not too worried about the amassing of Russian troops on that border, it's obviously very concerning, and Finland's taking it very seriously. And right now, Finland's completed about 35 kilometers of a planned 200-kilometer border fence. So they're trying to rush this border fence to get this done very quickly in case Russia decides to attack. But it looks like it'll probably not be ready in time if Russia did decide to attack, so that is a bit concerning to see. But once again, Finland is a NATO country, so theoretically, if they are attacked, then the United States in the West is obligated to respond unless we decide to back out of our NATO duties. So that is the case right now, and once again, a very contentious situation near Finland. But moving into our next post here, this one also goes to War Translated. And this post right here is probably going to give you your dose of anger for the day, because we are hearing today that the occupiers, meaning the Russians, they plan to connect the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is Ukrainian, by the way, in Ukrainian territory. They plan on connecting that to the Russian power grid in the coming weeks, according to the former Mariupol mayor advisor, which is listed right there. And to achieve this, the Russians have completed the construction of a distribution hub and a compressor station in the areas around occupied Mariupol and Berdyansk, and the full-scale operation is expected to begin in the coming months. And to say this is angering is really putting that as an understatement, because the Zaporizhzhia plant is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, according to my knowledge, and you can see it right here. It's a very large plant, and the Russians have had this under occupation for quite a long time, and now they're simply going to start hijacking the power and sending it right back to Russia. So that is adding much insult to injury, that they've stolen this plant, now they've stolen the power straight out of it, and right now it is in the hands of the Russians, which are not known for maintaining power plants of a nuclear type. They have a very bad track record with that, and we've seen that over history. So not good to see, and once again, very angering. They're straight up stealing the power from the Ukrainians. But moving on to our next post here, this one also goes to Max24. And also on another piece of disturbing news, we've gotten word today, according to The Guardian and the reporting that they've done, that Russia spied on arms supplies to Ukraine, hacking about 10,000 border surveillance cameras in NATO countries. So very disturbing to hear as well. Apparently, without even having to have boots on the ground, Russia has been spying on what type of arms are being sent to Ukraine, who's sending them, and where it's arriving to, based on simply hacking into security cameras in NATO countries. So, of course, that's a major OPSEC violation, and I'm kind of surprised that those surveillance cameras were able to be hacked that easily by Russia, because 10,000 is no small number. That means it must be relatively simple to hack into those surveillance cameras, and considering that is such a big OPSEC issue, I'm not sure why we didn't have better encryption or security measures in place for these cyber systems. So, very disturbing, and it sounds like Russia has a lot more intel than we previously thought based on this information from The Guardian. So, interesting to hear, and also disturbing as well. But jumping into our next post, this one goes to Alexander C4. Also, we've gotten a big piece of diplomatic news today that we have heard from the Washington Post. And once again, take this with a grain of salt. This is based on reporting we're hearing, and once again, I'm not intending to get political with this reporting right here. This is simply reporting what I've heard and seen based on the available news. So, right now we are hearing that allegedly the United States president told European leaders behind closed doors just a couple of days ago that Putin is not ready to end the war, which goes in contrast to the public statements that the US president has made, indicating that negotiations are the way forward with Russia. It seems to be that behind closed doors, the reality is actually setting in, and in the public, we're being told something completely different, at least according to this report. So that is not very much shocking to me, and once again, I think pretty much anybody at this point with any intelligence can see that Russia is trying to string us along and play us for a fool, and even though there's public flip-flopping from the US president, generally it is understood there's a lack of consensus by Russia to end the war and stop attacking the Ukrainian country. So there appears to be that right here in this post. But jumping into our next one here, this one goes to OSINT Defender. And let's switch gears away from our Ukraine-Russia news for just a moment and move on to our North Korea news, because you might remember we just reported last night that a naval destroyer, which was highly anticipated for the North Korean country, was deployed yesterday. It was actually rolled off the port and into the water, and when they did that, the boat actually rolled right into the water, it capsized, and it partially sunk. And we heard that happen right in front of Kim Jong-un as he was attending the ceremony, and he called it a criminal act and said that heads were going to roll over that entire situation. He was livid yesterday, but he's even more livid today, because now we have satellite imagery showing just how bad the damage is to the ship and how badly it sunk when it did roll off, and it is very, very bad. And as we can see right here in the post, it says satellite imagery from Airbus Defence and Space captured today by OSC London shows the latest Chohyun-class guided missile destroyer of the Korean People's Navy partially sunk at the Chongjin shipyard in North Korea following yesterday's failed launch attended by Kim Jong-un himself. So taking a look here at the brand new piece of imagery that we have, and once again a huge shout out for this imagery from OSC London, we do see there is the naval destroyer right there, partially sunk right there where they launched it from, and that is a humongous embarrassment right there. This was their first naval destroyer that they had, and it's supposed to be a brand new state-of-the-art one, at least for DPRK standards, and now it is brand new and it is sinking right here in the port where they launched it, literally right in front of Kim Jong-un. As he was smiling and watching and looking on, this thing sunk right before his eyes. So you could imagine that in North Korea, there are no room for mistakes, and this is a mistake of epic proportions, and some people are going to pay very dearly for this, and it'll probably be very public and probably shown on TV. And the one thing I hate that we do not have is we don't have any live footage from this event, because of course Kim Jong-un wants that hidden very quickly, does not want that to be seen, because I'm sure it shows him chuckling and laughing and pointing and smiling with glee as he saw this thing being launched, and then his face probably turned to horror as he saw it sinking in front of his eyes. So this is probably a hell of a piece of footage to see, but sadly we'll probably never get to see it unless somehow it leaks out. But once again, things don't really leak in North Korea, and if that happens, of course people pay even worse for that. So I doubt we'll see it, but right there we do see a epic failure by the North Koreans. But moving into our last post of the day, this one goes to Polymarket Intel. And also, let's switch gears one more time. We got some news coming out of China today, because once again, China is making some alleged strides in their aircraft and their manufacturing in recent months and years, actually. So we're actually seeing right here in this post that China's new 5th generation stealth fighter, the J-35A, has been spotted in flight today, and some are saying that it might have already entered mass production. So the J-35A is supposed to be a top-end new stealth fighter for China, and we do have the first piece of video evidence for it. So let's take a look and see if we can spot anything unusual with the flight, or see if it just looks like a typical fighter jet flying around. Let's take a peek. So right here we can see it, a very short video, but you can see it emerge from the back of that building, and it appears to be just flying a normal turn to the left right here. So we really can't tell very much. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video right here, because it's really just a 2-second long clip playing over and over and over. But there's nothing really super unusual that we can spot from this view. So nothing about capabilities, nothing about its real dogfighting capability or anything of that nature. And once again, we don't want the Indian military to get a hold of this, because they'll definitely test the dogfighting capability. But I doubt they'll be getting a hold of this one, because this is the top end fighter that China is developing. So not much to see, but just a glimpse of it right here that we got on video, just to show you all, to give you a taste of what China is developing. But I think that we might have them beat when it comes to aircraft. I just have a hunch about that, but we'll have to wait and see when the United States unveils some more aircraft that we have in our arsenal that we've had sitting around for a minute. So anyways, that is our last post of the day, and I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. Once again, a lot of big news to cover, and before you leave, smack the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you already haven't, for more daily war updates just like this one. And if you watch the video to this point, go down to the comments below and type Moscow down there and let us know you watched the video to this point, because once again, we love to know that y'all watched the video the entire way through, because that typically means that y'all like the content of the video, and of course that does make us very happy to hear. So also, by the way, one more thing, if you want to support the channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership and support the channel in a very big way that way. And once again, huge shout out to our Patreon supporters for helping to make the channel possible. But with that, folks, we'll see you all at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, at 10 p.m. Eastern, of course, on our nightly war news stream to cover the rest of the news throughout the day. And thank you all for watching, and bye-bye for now.